Welcome to Dear Romance Writer, everybody, where three writers, four actually this week, who always deliver happily ever afters, offer questionable advice for all of your relationship, work, and life problems. I'm Avery Flynn.
I'm Roan Parrish.
And I'm Zio Axelrod. We've got a great show for you today with the amazing Jennifer Probsts. Jen, Yay! Welcome to the show. It's so good to see you.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Tell us all about yourself. Tell everybody who you are, what you do, all that good stuff.
Oh, all the good stuff. So it always feels so good to say I'm a New York Times bestselling author. Now, guys, I literally wrote my 50th book. So it's very exciting. This year I'm like having a 50 party. Like I'm decided when it gets published. Yeah, it feels so good. So I get to say like under 50 books, and I write contemporary romance fiction, and I write all of it. There's women's fiction, there's sexy fiction, there's erotic fiction, there's all of it.
Mm-hmm. And she writes great books for writers as well. That are super helpful and really, really good. So highly recommend those for y'all.
Thank you, Avery. I forget about the two nonfiction books, Write Naked and Write True, for all my writers out there.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, we are so happy to have you here today. Wait, what's your latest? What's your latest book?
Oh, my latest is actually coming February 22nd.
Yeah.
22. So it's like a date, called The Secret Love Letters of Olivia Moretti. And it's about three sisters who take a trip to track down their mom's mysterious letter. After she passes, they find a hidden trunk in her closet with a stack of love letters from a mysterious R and a house to a deed in the Amalfi Coast. So they literally go to travel to Italy, and at the same time, they're finding their mom's secret past. They're also healing the fragments of their relationships.
I love it.
So it's a little bit about.
Please tell me you got to go to Italy to research this book.
Well, I actually wrote it during the pandemic, but I'd been to Italy 4 times, and I always knew I wanted to write about Positano. And I got to be honest, guys, it was pretty awesome to like be in Positano in the book all day. And then, my husband would call me for dinner, and I'd be like, "Where's my spaghetti vongole? Where's my?" And he'd be like, "You're back in New York, baby. Like you got, that's what you got."
Yeah,
it was fun.
That's amazing. Reality, man.
Oh my gosh,
that sounds awesome.
Welcome.
Okay,
welcome. Can I tell you, no segue, just can I tell you the cutest thing that happened to me on Valentine's Day?
Yes.
Okay, I realized that this is such a rom-com thing, but my girlfriend and I got each other the literal same Valentine's Day gift.
Really?
Like, it was a thing that we had to order directly from a creator that we both had to arrive, and mine hadn't come yet on Valentine's Day. And so I walked over to her house and I was like, my present for you isn't here. Like, I'm so pissed. And then she handed me mine, and I opened it and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like,
that is hysterical.
And then mine came the next day, and yeah, we got each other the same thing.
That is
swoony rom.
I love that.
Seriously swoony.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I like that.
Anyway,
meanwhile, at our house, I looked at my husband and said, "No gifts, no food, no cards, no flowers." I'm like, I can't do it this year.
You're on deadline. That's right.
And if he does it and I don't do it, then I feel guilty.
Yeah.
So I'm like, just we're both canceled. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
V-Day is canceled. See, my husband knows I just go into it, so I'm not disappointed. I'm like, this is what I want. Go get it. Wrap it up. And I am in the throes of like winter in New York. So I was like, I want this chocolate covered strawberries in the chocolate bowl that I can eat. And I want it by myself. That was it. It was super easy.
I really like that. Those are goals. Yeah. Those are goals. I should do that instead of know nothing next year. All right. I'm rethinking my stuff.
We kind of got each other the same thing this year. He got me wine and chocolate. He always gets chocolate, but this time he got this, like, it's Newhouse chocolate. So it's made for pairing with wine. There's like different kinds of chocolate, and they tell you which one. And then 3 bottles of wine. One is sparkling, which surprised me because he hates sparkling wine. And I got him dry cider because when we were on vacation last year, we found out that he likes dry cider.
Dry cider.
I was like, we both got each other some booze. I'm like, wait, this is love.
I love it. That is so love.
This is gonna be a fun few weekends coming up. Oh, was that the kitty?
When
Kitty's like, where's my
attack.
booze?
I like that. Oh man.
Well, this episode is actually sponsored by A Letter to Three Witches by Elizabeth Bass, which is out now from Kensington. And we talked about this before, but I want to remind people because it's such a cute premise. It's Bewitched meets practical magic, which I said I was going to watch Practical Magic again because it's been too long and I don't remember the film. But in this sparkling and quirky rom-com with an enchanted twist, when romance problems cause their powers to go berserk, a trio of witches whose family was banned from practicing magic risk getting in serious trouble with the Grand Council. Can they get their magic and their love lives in order before it's too late? You have to order it to find out. Dun, dun, dun. But it sounds super cute. So yeah.
Who doesn't love a good witch book, right? That's
right.
Yeah.
I love that we're seeing more of them now.
Yeah, they're bigger now, right? I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I like it because our rights as human beings are being so curtailed by the government that we have to actually write books where we kill people through magic so that we don't end up on a government watch list when we write books like explosive devices or guns. Because when a little magic spell goes awry, who can blame you?
Yeah.
Who can blame you?
Oopsie.
Right. You know, I hadn't quite gone there, but you know, I can follow you in that direction. I think I really can. Oh, that's funny.
Well, onto something completely different.
Onto something completely different.
We actually got a letter. Didn't we get a letter?
We did. I have the letter, but real quick, just to remind everybody, Letter to Three Witches by Elizabeth Bass is out now from Kensington, and you can find out more at kensingtonbooks.com.
Thank you for that tag.
Yeah,
I missed the tag completely.
She did. But this is what we do, man. We're good friends. So we have a letter. This is a little bit of a long one. It's a little bit of a heartbreaker. I will not lie to you. I read this in our inbox, and quite frankly, let's just all give Sally a hug now. Okay.
Oh, Sally.
Yes. Okay. So thank you for sending in your letter. Anybody who wants to send in their letter can send it to advice@dearromancewriter.com. We will not share any identifying information, so it'll be anonymous. So just Sally writes in and says, I'm a single mother in my late 30s. Since high school, I've had a wonderful friend. Let's call him Ian. He and I have gone through some times, not speaking for months on end, to being attached to the hip for years. It's just how life goes. But as I've said, we've only ever been friends. But I have been aware since high school that Ian may have deeper feelings for me. He has never in all this time ever pressured me to take our relationship further, and it's the reason I've kept him in my life. I was vain in my younger years and spent far too much of my life confusing lust for love and focusing far too much on looks. This, I embarrassingly admit, is the only reason I never pursued a romantic relationship with Ian. Soon after graduation, I became pregnant and quickly married the father of my daughter. I did everything I thought I was supposed to, but after 2 years, my husband cheated and left me with our daughter. I had my mother in town, and I don't know what I would have done without her. I also leaned heavily on Ian during this time for emotional support. He was nothing short of a saint to me and never tried to leverage my emotional state to his advantage. Sadly, I repeated this process too many times. I was at least smart enough to never let myself become pregnant again. It all came to a head when my daughter was 13. My live-in boyfriend at the time was verbally abusive to me. One day, my daughter called me from my mother's house and said she was never going to be near that man again, even if it meant she couldn't be around me. I am so embarrassed that it took such a drastic wake-up call for me to figure things out, or at least start to try. When I tried to break up with my boyfriend, he shouted at me that I couldn't leave him and how ungrateful I was. I locked myself in the bathroom and called Ian in tears. He was at my house in minutes. Ian is not a physically intimidating person, and my boyfriend was. I can't go into details, but I'll say that I had my finger over 911 during the whole incident because I was terrified of what my boyfriend might do to Ian. By some miracle, Ian convinced my boyfriend to pack and leave without a physical fight. Ian also sat in his car in my driveway the rest of the night in case my boyfriend decided to come back. Not only that, the next day, he changed all my locks and installed security cameras at my home. He just did this without me even asking to. When my daughter came home, I did what I should have from the start. I focused on providing for her myself instead of trying to give her a 2-parent home. I stopped dating, worked on my career, and poured all the love I could into my daughter. By some grace of God, she's an amazing student and is now off to college with me, having to provide little financial support. I cannot say how proud of her I am, despite every disservice I did her growing up. I'm at home by myself now, and I'll admit I'm lonely. Ian and I had been in a phase where we're not talking much, but we ran into each other at the store recently, and out of nowhere, I asked him to come over and watch a movie. About halfway through the movie, we held hands and did so for the rest of the show, and when he went to leave, I kissed him. He seemed happy enough about this, but he does guard himself because it wouldn't be the first time I've given him a reason to hope. I'm horrible, I know. I'm pretty sure now that I'm in love with Ian and I want to have a relationship with him. My problem is, how do I start? I've spent so much of my life putting horrible men before Ian, and he has always been there for me. I feel like I'm starting from inside a hole in the ground that I've dug myself. What if he won't ever have me at this point? And if he does, how do I ever make up for everything?
Wow.
I told you guys. Sally needs a hug.
Hugging Sally, hugging Ian, hugging Sally's daughter.
Yeah, everyone. So, where do we start? What do you guys think? What should Sally do at this point?
This letter breaks my heart because it's so clear how much Sally blames herself, not just for missing out on the chance with Ian or like being more invested in people's looks or sex appeal over certain other things, which I want to like pause and say that people who are socialized as women are taught that being with men who are physically attractive gives them power.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
social
also think
power.
To an extent, it's human nature, right? And it's
no, I think it's cultural.
I don't know. I think what we find attractive is cultural.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think finding that physical attraction, I don't think is cultural. It's just what we find attractive. Yeah. But anyways, I interrupted. Sorry, keep going.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I mean, every culture has different ideas of what is attractive. Every person has different ideas of what's attractive. But one thing in our culture that is fairly true across the board is that people who are socialized as women gain cultural capital by being with men that the world views as attractive. And that attractiveness could be power or money or looks or sex appeal or physical strength. But I want to say to Sally, like, first thing, the fact that you valued those things above what was inside people when you were younger does not make you a bad person. That is cultural conditioning that you fell into because you were taught to. And it's not good, of course, and you know that now, but I feel like the first thing I want to say, because this letter has so much self-loathing and so much, it's so clear that it's written from someone who's at a really different point in their life than they were at the beginning of of high school when they met this person, is like, don't hate yourself because you had to learn a life lesson by living life. That's how we learn life lessons. And it's like hating yourself over it is just not, it's not productive. It's not fair. It's not kind. And so I would say, like, if you can start to let go of that, it matters so much more who you are now in dealing with this issue. Like, if your real question is, how do I try to start a relationship with this person? I feel like the first thing you have to do is let go of that sense that you're starting at a deficit, like as if you already have so much to make up for, that like Ian has something over on you, right?
Yeah,
like,
it's giving him some power that she doesn't necessarily need to give.
Exactly. Like, he's clearly a lovely person and has been there for you and done all these wonderful things, but like, you don't know why people do what they do. You don't know why people make the choices they make. I think assuming that he had some sort of ulterior motive and that you failed to like live up to some other man's expectations of you doesn't mean that you are starting out in a hole. That just means you didn't have those feelings before. And to me, the why doesn't matter so much. Like, we are so often not able to choose the things that are best for us at certain moments in our life, or like the things that are best for us in one way are worst for us in another. And I just feel like step one is you have to forgive yourself before you can even think about getting into a relationship with a new person. Like that, and that's just work that's going to happen. Like, go get a therapist if you don't have one. Absolutely. Find friends, talk about the things that you like, the choices that you feel like you've made that aren't serving you anymore, not to like make amends or feel bad, but because like that's how we learn, right? Like, how can we get over shit like learning that being skinny is positive and being fat is negative, which is another lesson that people teach us. Like, we don't just suddenly one day wake up and be like, oh, the value placed on thin bodies is essentially a white supremacist, misogynist thought. Good thing that's taken care of, and I can live the rest of my life in ease in my body. Like, these are super hard, complicated, culturally entrenched narratives that you alone as one human being do not have the power to shift. All you have the power to do is to think about why you made the choices you made. Think about what you've learned now that makes you a different person. Talk to your daughter, who seems like super self-sufficient and powerful and like goal oriented, and maybe she can help you. But I feel like step one, I want to just say, is like getting to a place where you no longer feel like you owe someone for past mistakes that you had to make to get to where you are today.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm going to agree and disagree with you really quick on a couple of things. Number one, yeah, I think this whole letter to me is that meme where the woman like does the chef's kiss and say growth. You know, that's what this whole letter is to me, is she has grown as a human being, right? She has matured. She has gone from that dumbass that we all are in high school and has matured to an actual adult with adult feelings and emotions and realizations. And that is a huge thing. It takes some of us longer than others. So that's number one. So I agree with all of that stuff. And I love that the kitty cat is like all in your face today. I'm going to disagree. And this could be very well a me thing on the talking to your adult daughter about this. I think that there are certain boundaries between parents and kids. And I think when you try and turn your child into a best friend / therapist, I think that, you know, or somebody to get advice from, I think that can be problematic. And especially in a relationship with this, where the child has already been the one to sort of step up and say, you're in an abusive relationship. I'm never going back there again. This has to change. So that child has already had to be an adult earlier than probably ideal, or probably
sorry, I totally agree with you. That was unclear. No. I didn't mean talk to your daughter about your relationship with Ian or the men that you've chosen. Yeah. I mean, talk to your daughter about how to figure out what you want, what your goals are, how to be like a woman in the
and I still disagree with that, because I personally me, I disagree with that, because I do think that there need to be boundaries between that relationship to keep that relationship healthy. It doesn't mean you can't be friends. Well, friendly. I don't know. I just personally feel that things get weird when the parent-child relationship loses those boundaries. My opinion. Yeah. Okay. But practically speaking, with Sally and with Ian, I think the most important thing that she needs to do, because she is to actually sit down and talk to Ian and see if he is actually interested in having.
I think that's the fear.
Yeah.
I think that's the fear, though.
And that's really scary. But she needs to do that, because she needs to figure out what his boundaries are, what he's comfortable with. If he wants things to stay the same as they ever was, maybe that's his comfort zone too. They've been doing it for 20 years now.
He may have made peace with his feelings for her and has moved on to some other,
to something else. So she needs to sit and have that conversation with him first. But she does definitely need to give herself a little bit of grace, and thinking that she's ruined everything that a relationship that she might have with Ian. She just needs to sit down and have kind of an uncomfortable conversation.
Which we
it sounds like he's already seen so much of her of her internal ugly anyway, and the ugly that has happened in her life, that none of it's probably going to be shocking to him. So
He hasn't run away screaming, so he's a keeper.
Right, exactly.
But I need to talk to Sally directly for a second. Sally, just listen to me for just a second. You are an awesome person. I can tell you why. You raise an incredible daughter.
Yep.
And a person who is a shitty mom or crap person or whatever does not raise incredible daughters when it was just you guys. You know what I mean? You tried to provide the life that you thought you needed to raise her. And all the time, that whole while, you were the only thing that she needed. Yeah. And it took her saying, look, Mom, you are not loving yourself enough. I'm going to remove myself from the situation, which is what you should do. And kudos to her for doing that, because that takes a lot of courage to leave your parent like that. But you need to love yourself. Like these men, and even Ian, any relationship you have with him, great, that's wonderful. But you have to figure out how to fall in love with yourself, because all I'm reading in this letter is that you don't love yourself and you don't think you deserve Ian. So like Roan said, get a therapist, talk to someone, and fall in love with yourself, because we're all sitting here going, wow, what a really cool person, what amazing growth. And I'm not getting that from you in this letter.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all of you. And all I can think of is going back to the decade in my 20s where I hopped from kind of abusive relationship to abusive relationship. And, I've been married to my husband now for, I think it's in 18 years, but I always know that I met him when I was older and I was done. I had done my growth. I had done my therapy. I had realized who I was, and I needed to make all of those terrible, awful mistakes. But it's something that when you're going through it, you're trapped within it. You can't see past it. Now I look back at all of those mistakes. I would not take one of them back, because that means it would change where I am right now. And I know that if I met my husband earlier, I wouldn't have even looked at him twice. But when he came into my life, I was suddenly very in love with the good guy, the nice guy, the guy who's gonna, but you revert it back. And I wasn't even, I would have gone to the club and been like, oh no, it was just, I was very attracted to men who had something that wasn't good for me. But at the same time, I had to go through that. So like there's that self-love, but it's like, be so kind to yourself, because I just feel like down the line, you're going to look back and see how the history had to be gone through so you can get to a stronger point. That's a big thing. And with Ian, I also feel like just what you said, Zio, about communication, that's a big thing. But also taking it slow. I also feel like she's a little in her head going, aren't we all in our heads going, okay, I'm going to, this is going to happen. That's going to happen. I'm ready now. But sometimes it's just be in the moment and build up that trust and try this relationship on a different level and just see what happens. Sometimes we don't have to rush or overthink and I do agree with talking to him, but then I also agree that you can't, it's got to go back slow, because you're never going to have the same relationship with all the other things in the background. So that could just come into something completely new, but she's got to figure that out with him, and slow and steady. There's no rush right now.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Because I mean, other than her daughter, it sounds like Ian has been the most steady person in her life.
That
and you don't,
touchstone.
It's a touch. Yeah, definitely. He's a touchstone. You don't want to, yeah, I agree. Sorry.
Yeah. And I think that the, one of the things that has to happen before you talk to Ian is, and this can happen with whoever, like if you don't have a good friend, then a therapist would be a great person to talk to. If you have close family or someone that you can talk to, I think you need to figure out what it is that you like about Ian besides the things that he's done for you and the space that he's held for you, because it's extremely easy to look at the things people have done for us and read them as indicative of love, but that's not the same thing as being in love with a person. And it could be that Ian's in love with you. It could be that he used to be and he's not anymore. We don't know yet. Certainly he's like an amazing friend and an amazing person because he's totally had your back. But lots of us are amazing friends for people that we are not in love with. And some of us are amazing friends for people that we would be terrible at being in a relationship with. And none of that is to say that you shouldn't try. Really absolutely not. But I do think like one thing that happens after you've been in a bunch of abusive relationships is that you artificially inflate the value of basic human kindness to excess emotion. Like I have known people who, when I did something for them that was just what anyone should have done, they gave it so much value. They thanked me effusively. They said, "Oh my God, you are an amazing friend." And I have had to look at them and be like, I am just doing a pretty normal, basic thing that any casual friend would do for another. I'm not doing anything extraordinary. Your evaluation chart is skewed negative. And like that's a real, I mean, that's like a psychological thing that really does happen after abusive relationships. And so and again, not saying that the things that he's done are not wonderful, but I think like you could even make a pros list for yourself or like a pro con list for yourself, but like list the things that you like about him, things like things that don't have to do with his service to you. I like his sense of humor. We have really similar taste in movies. I love that he's the first person I want to tell about something funny because he has the best laugh in the whole world. Like those are the things that I think you want to figure out. Like you should have, I don't know, how many of those do you guys have about your partners? I have hundreds, like of those things that you really like about the person that add up to, I want to be with this person in a romantic way more than I want to be with anybody else or by myself. And like that, I think I would do before talking to Ian so that you can show up for him and tell him that. Because if I were in Ian's position and I had been showing you that I cared for years and years and years, and maybe in more of a friend, more than a friend kind of way, if you finally kissed me and were like, let's do this, I would be so suspicious, not because you're not probably a wonderful person, but because what's changed now? Like, how do I know that you value me now for myself as opposed to in comparison with these dudes who've treated you shitty? And I would want to hear, like, these are the reasons why I want to start a relationship with you. These are the reasons why I think that we would be great together, or why I think that I could care about you in that way. And that would be a great way to also see where he's landing, because there are some people who like to be the hero and they really enjoy, like they get something big out of showing up for other people. There's nothing wrong with that unless it's indicating something that their feeling doesn't match. And so, I think you should tell him those reasons that you care about him. You should tell him those reasons why you want a relationship. And I think you should be super, super clear with him, like exactly what you said to us in this letter. He probably already knows from his side of things, but he doesn't know what was going on in your head unless you've told him. And so I think, a conversation like that is going to look a lot like comparing finances or something, where you're like, listen, I got this in the negative column, I got this in the plus column. I want to be real with you about where I'm coming from and what it would mean to be in a relationship. And this is what I want. And this is what I think. And like, if that's a conversation, whatever your version of that is, because I see Avery dying on the inside.
We have to talk about feelings.
Whatever your version of that looks like, is like when adults sit down to talk about whether they're going to be in a relationship, it's not like, do you like me, check yes or no anymore. And I think that is something that like
pass a note.
God, it's so much easier.
Yes, it was. Unless you got the no, then it was terrible and it sucked.
Yes. Or it could just be the little foldy thing where you found out if you were living in a mansion, a shack, a house. What were the rest? What was the other one? A mansion, a shack, a house. There was another. I don't remember the fourth one. Anyways, I don't remember. MASH. It was MASH. I don't know. Maybe it was an apartment because it was
apartment, I guess. Yeah.
Apartment.
No, I agree with Rowan, because even in the letter, she says this wouldn't be the first time I've given him a reason to hope, which is like, if you've let him on, I hate to use that term, but if you've let him on before and then went in a different direction, there was some heartbreak there or some mourning period that he had to go through. So yeah, tread carefully. And I totally agree that sometimes when you're in a bad situation or just in no situation at all, and suddenly someone is presenting you with kindness, you can get the heart flutters because the person is presenting you with kindness, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you know what I mean? So like, yeah, you have to evaluate what you want from your relationship with Ian before you talk to him, because if you give him a glimmer of hope and then you dash it again, I don't know what that would do to your friendship.
Okay.
That's a really good point. And I say this as somebody whose dogs are going to town in the background. If you hear them, sorry. But I love therapy for other people. I have never been able to do therapy. No one who listens to this podcast is shocked by this. But feelings, ew. I would, however, strongly suggest to Sally that she find, like, either through like some of the therapy apps so she doesn't have to do face-to-face, or her local community mental health center sometimes will have things, or even some, I'm not a huge fan of self-help books just because I think there's so many grifters out there, but something she has been through, I mean, since high school, and she's in her mid-30s now, if my math is correct. I write books for a living. It's probably not, but she's somewhere around there. So
Late.
She has been going through it her entire life. And some of the things that are within the letter that talk about, I thought I was doing the right thing, trying to give my child a 2-parent household. I was doing what I always thought. I don't, some of the self-loathing, like as Zio talked about, things like that. You've made huge progress in your growth and what you've done. I think there is still more to go down that block. I mean, we all have so much more space to go down that block, but I think you've got stuff that would really help and benefit in the long term by being able to talk with somebody and figuring out healthy boundaries and being able to figure out that self-love factor in you. And almost as the, like, it doesn't, okay, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, the letter didn't say how long since she was basically keeping herself. Let's see, her daughter was 13, is that right? Yeah, so her daughter's 13, her daughter's in college now. So let's say 5 years, right? She spent 5 years sort of doing that, okay, I'm setting myself on a different path type of thing. But bad relationships can be like addictions, and you don't want to jump, you don't want to think you're free and clear in something and jump into a relationship. There's a reason why they strongly suggest people don't get out of rehab and then go into relationships, right? So I'm not saying that's the situation. I'm just saying it's something to be aware of. And I really do think that you've been through a lot of hell, and it shows just what a strong person you are, that you have made it through, and that you've raised such a strong child, and that you are becoming self-aware of all of these things. I think you need some support in your corner, and I think therapy.
Definitely. And, stop tallying up your quote unquote failures and start looking at all of your successes, because I guarantee you there are more of them.
There always is, right? What is the famous line? It's so much easy to believe the bad stuff.
Right.
Be woman.
Yeah.
So and it is. It's human. It's just human. And I think looking back, I think giving herself grace. You need to give yourself a break. You need to really know that you are doing the best that you can, and we're all making mistakes out here. So
yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Which stinks.
Well,
we should be perfect by now.
That is such a
hopefully
letter. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for writing to us. That was it. Yeah, I hope you write back to let us know what you do or what happened.
Please let us know.
Yeah.
I'm really invested.
And thank you for trusting
yes.
us with this. Thank you for trusting us with this, because this is some big life stuff here.
And I know a lot of
Yeah,
people out there
it seems so clear that you're getting.
Yeah, like Jen said, people can relate. A lot of people can relate to this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally. Yeah, well, okay, so this letter and talking about partners and stuff has me thinking about falling in love and how many ways it happens in. And like Jen was saying, you know, that you can meet the right person at the wrong time isn't the right person, etc. So I'm wondering what all of your meet cutes were for your significant others. Like if you had to, does it fall into a trope category, workplace romance, enemies to lovers, that kind of thing? Like, can you talk about your meet cutes and if they have a trope that goes to them?
A trope? I'm trying to think of a trope.
Well, I will say that Mr. Flynn and I were workplace romance.
Ooh, I love that trope.
Yeah. So there you go. Opposites attract. Workplace romance, and let's see, we're at 22 years this year. Yay. So yeah, you spend a lot of time at work, folks. Yeah, so that's my lightning round meet cute. We met at work.
Nice.
I was still young and wore very short skirts, so there you go.
Ooh,
I love that. I met my husband at a bar, but I was with a girlfriend hanging out. I was scoping out the single men, and my girlfriend's boyfriend at the time called my husband and said, come meet me at the bar. And I guess my husband was on a date, and the date had gone terrible. And he was like, oh, and he was so depressed. He said, he just wanted to go home and go to bed. He's like, he said he was like lonely. He had a terrible date. He couldn't find like a good woman, just somebody to date for a long time. And he always says to me, thank God I went to that bar.
Oh.
And we took my two boys who are now, oh my God, 17 and 15. And we went to the local restaurant and we point out the bar stool. I'm like, that's where Mommy and Daddy met. Don't ever be afraid to go to the bar.
Don't ever be afraid to go to the bar.
That's a trope. I don't know if that's a trope.
I think that should be the bar trope.
That is definitely a trope.
Yeah.
If
well,
it should be a trope.
Set up by friends, right?
Yeah,
Like blind
set up by
date
friends.
style.
Yeah.
There you go.
I love that he was on a date that went badly, and like then he meets you.
I loved that. He said, I just was looking kind of like me. I just wanted like a relationship with somebody nice who made me laugh. It was like we were just at the same. And when we started talking, I remember there was just this, I felt like I could talk to him forever, just laugh and stuff like that. There was none of that stress that I was so used to, and all of I'm like, this is stress. This is going to be great.
Yeah.
It was like, wow, I think I've learned my lesson.
And that is a huge lesson in, early relationships versus adult relationships.
Yeah.
What about you, Theo?
We met online, not in a dating anything, nothing like that. It was a class to learn how to put websites together. And it was like a group of 30 students, and the instructor never showed up. So those of us in the class were like giving each other information, like, anybody know how to do this? Okay, I know how to do that, and you know how to do that. And then like toward the end of the class, we had nothing else to talk about. So it was like, did anybody see whatever movie, what it was? So we talked about movies. And then the next day we were all back in there again, talking about like movies and music and whatever. And out of that group of 30 people, 6 couples formed. Somehow like 6 couples formed. The first couple got married 2 weeks after that class, the first class. Another one like moved, one of the girl moved to Canada, I think it was, or wherever. We didn't start dating online anyway until like a month later. But after that, it went really fast. We met in person. So it was February when we met in the class, March when we started talking, April when I flew out there and met in person, June he flew here to meet my people, July we got engaged. June we got engaged, July I went out there to meet his parents, which is a whole long story. August he moved to Philly because he was in California at the time, and then we got married in November. So it was like,
all right, I just want to point out, anytime my editor gets on me for my short timelines in my books, I'm gonna be like, I have proof.
Yeah.
Her name is
I will
Theo
write Insta love.
Axelrod.
I'm a fan of feasible Insta love because it happens.
Yep. There you go.
Love.
I like that. How about you, Roan?
We are friends to lovers. My girlfriend and I were really close friends for like a year and a half, and I finally had to like confess my love to her because I felt like I was lying, not saying anything. And so I told her in like the dorkiest way ever, where I was like, you don't have to, like, I don't expect anything. Don't worry. You don't have to say anything in response. And then I told her that I had a crush on her, and she was totally shocked. And so for a moment I was like, oh, this is going to be bad.
You're like Heartbreak City, population me.
Yeah, exactly. But then it all worked out. And it's been like, I don't know, a year and a half or 2 years.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's so nice. Guys, we all have a trope.
We all have
Yeah.
a trope.
Well, we have no choice but to write romance, I guess.
Yeah.
Ah,
I like this.
that's awesome.
Oh man.
Well, this has been uplifting, even though we had a heavy letter. I think there's a lot of optimism in that letter. So Sally, we are wishing you all the best, and we can't wait to hear from you again. And if you have other listeners, if you have a problem or a situation that you want to talk about or want us to give you advice, questionable or otherwise, please write us. We love to hear from you. You can send us a letter on our anonymous form on our website, dearromancewriter.com. You can DM us, slide on in there, and we will be happy to help you. But Jen, thank you so much for being here with us this week. We really enjoyed having you. You're amazing. You know, I love you. So.
I love you guys, all of you so much. This was like oh my God, it was such a treat, like to just be involved and hear the letter and feel like the whole community is supporting everybody. You guys are wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Tell everybody where they can find you again. And
oh yes,
all about
okay.
Coming out.
So, JenniferProbsts.com. Go to my website. I'm on all social media, but on 222, go out and check The Secret Love Letters of Olivia Moretti. It's got a little bit of everything. Love,
I can't wait to read it.
sisters, travel, food, because the Italian in me, lots of food and wine.
We approve.
It sounds fabulous, and I cannot wait.
Thank you.
I cannot wait. Well, thank you guys for joining us for another episode. We will be back next week. And do we know who's with us next week?
I think it's just us next
Is it just us?
It is just us. We're
next
single week.
Well, Valentine's Day is over, so we're all single.
Yeah, we're done.
We'll be back with more questionable advice for you from this trio of happily ever after enthusiasts. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next time.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Thank you so much for subscribing to Dear Romance Writer. Remember to keep sending in those letters at dearromancewriter.com. We can't wait to tell you what to do. Dear Romance Writer is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. Find more podcasts you'll love, frolic.media/podcasts.